What if I told you that the data you're analyzing doesn't actually live on a flat plane? In modern science, data rarely does. Brain morphologies, protein conformations, directional sensor arrays, and even astronomical observations naturally reside on curved surfaces. Mathematically, we call these curved spaces manifolds. And when we try to cluster or model this kind of data using traditional Euclidean algorithms, we run into serious geometric problems. Straight lines don't exist, distances get distorted, and standard methods start making systematic errors that can completely obscure the patterns we're trying to find. Standard clustering and statistical modeling assume everything happens in flat Euclidean space. But on a sphere, a biological shape space, or a hyperbolic geometry, that assumption breaks down. Distances curve, directions twist, and forcing high-dimensional manifold data into a flat box either introduces severe projection artifacts or misses crucial directional variation entirely. Researchers are left struggling to identify hidden subgroups or quantify how latent factors influence these complex datasets. That's exactly why a new statistical framework called Manifold Gaussian Factor Analysis, or MGFA, was developed. Think of it as a rigorous bridge between classical latent variable modeling and the differential geometry of real-world data. Instead of treating every direction as equally important, MGFA introduces latent factors that capture how data clusters vary along specific, curved trajectories. On a flat plane, this is conceptually similar to factor analysis or principal component analysis. But on a manifold, we have to redefine what direction, distance, and variation even mean. Here's the clever part. MGFA models each cluster around a central point on the manifold, but instead of assuming isotropic spherical spread, the variation follows geodesic paths. Geodesics are the shortest routes between points on a curved surface, like great circles on a globe. Each subgroup's covariance structure is parameterized along these geodesics, guided by hidden latent factors. This allows the model to capture anisotropic patterns, where data stretches, compresses, or clusters more strongly in certain geometric directions than others. By mixing several of these geodesic factor models together, we can uncover multiple distinct subpopulations, even when they heavily overlap or exhibit complex directional dependencies. But a new method is only as useful as its mathematical guarantees. The researchers didn't just build an algorithm. They established a solid theoretical foundation using tools from Riemannian geometry. They proved that under bounded curvature conditions, MGFA's parameter estimates converge to the true underlying manifold structure at a predictable, optimal rate. They did this by tracking how geodesics diverge or converge under small perturbations, bounding the complexity of the parameter space using entropy estimates, and demonstrating that the model's probability distributions remain well-behaved as dimensionality increases. In practical terms, they built mathematical guardrails that guarantee the method won't suddenly diverge or become numerically unstable when the data gets high-dimensional or the manifold curvature changes. Translating that theory into practice required some clever computational geometry. On a sphere, for example, sampling from the latent distribution means picking a random vector in the tangent space at the manifold's center point, then projecting it onto the surface using the exponential map. Computing the normalization constants, which are essential for turning those geodesic distances into valid probability densities, reduces to evaluating carefully bounded integrals along the geodesic paths. To optimize the model, they implemented an efficient iterative algorithm that alternates between an expectation step, refining cluster assignments based on posterior probabilities, and a maximization step, updating the geometric parameters and latent factor loadings. This M-style approach converges reliably while respecting the manifold's intrinsic geometry. When tested against established baselines, the results were stark. In simulations across spherical, hyperbolic, and complex shape spaces, MGFA consistently outperformed traditional methods like k-means, Ward linkage, and standard Gaussian mixture models. It recovered hidden group structures with accuracy rates above 90%, while competitors struggled to break 70, even when the underlying data-generating process was slightly misspecified. The model's ability to handle directional covariance and overlapping clusters made it particularly robust. But the real validation came when the team applied it to actual medical imaging data. They analyzed the geometric shapes of the hippocampus and corpus callosum in patients with mild cognitive impairment. By letting MGFA uncover natural subgroups directly from the shape geometry, they identified patient clusters that aligned with meaningful biological differences. Most notably, the model revealed that women in the study showed a significantly stronger correlation between amyloid beta accumulation and cognitive decline compared to men. This isn't just a statistical artifact. It points to potential sex-specific neurodegenerative pathways that traditional flat-space clustering methods likely smoothed over or completely missed. This work proves that when data lives on curved surfaces, we don't need to abandon statistical rigor. We just need to adapt our tools to the intrinsic geometry of the problem. By combining latent factor modeling with the mathematics of Riemannian manifolds, we can uncover hidden structure, make more accurate inferences, and open the door to deeper insights in fields ranging from computational neuroscience to network science. As datasets grow more complex and increasingly reside on non-Euclidean spaces, methods like MGFA will become essential for turning geometric complexity into scientific discovery. If you're working with directional data, biological shapes, or graph embeddings, it's worth diving into the underlying math. The future of data science isn't flat, and neither is the geometry we need to model it.